Hi guys, it's Andy from Man City Fan TV and welcome back to the Friday Night Social. Today is the 8th of May 2020 and as usual we invite some guests on. Some of them you will have seen from last week. So what I'm going to do first is just ask them what they've been up to for the last week in lockdown or a certain bit of lockdown, let's call it. So you're laughing, Carl. So I saw your Twitter feed before, and you posted me in of your drive back. You're obviously over in Washington DC. How's your last week been, mate? Since you were on last week.
Kind of boring. Today was a highlight because I had to go downtown to get my computer hard drive fixed because it crashed. My work computer, not this one. And so I'm, get off to my house and get off the street. I'm down the highway and there's a traffic jam, right? Like 3-mile traffic jam. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell is going on? Because we're supposed to be in lockdown. I know it's a Friday. It's not sunny. It's cloudy. And there's a traffic jam. And then it eased up. And I showed you the other video I showed you was people kind of gassing at 70 miles an hour. And I'm saying to myself, what the hell is going on?
Well, I mean,
everybody on lockdown.
Well, I mean, I must admit, this week I've really sort of stepped back from social media and Sky News and watching debates on what's happening there. I've really pulled myself away from it this week. I've had a really, really busy week. So I know last time we spoke, there was the different types of state governments that were imposing their own restrictions and their own relaxing of lockdown. So where does it stand at the moment in Washington with regards to what are you actually allowed to do? And why was your video on Twitter? Why was that so unusual?
So you're allowed to go out, but you have to wear protective masks and gloves. You're supposed to stay at home as much as you can. But if you have to go out, your essential services, or if there's a need to go out, you have to go out, but keep your social distance.
And you have to wear a mask and
you have to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask. If you don't wear a mask, you can't shop in the grocery store. You can't go anywhere. You're not allowed to. Okay. They won't let you in.
Okay.
Right. So there's a big sign that says no mask, no entry. Right. So people have to wear masks and we have to wear gloves and keep their distance. So, and people are respectful of that. People generally keep to that. Right.
Yeah.
But I was just surprised to see on the way down to downtown to get my laptop fixed. Because I have to work from home.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were so many cars on the road. I mean, traffic. It's like, what's going on here? But we're compliant. Down south in Florida, people are going to the beach.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I must admit, I'm in a fortunate position where I live, and it's not that most people I come across are on bikes, and that's it. And I don't see many cars going to do my, shopping for relatives and shopping for family and shopping for us and everything else. So I'm the one that mainly goes out of the house most days because I've got 4 sort of separate families that I'm shopping for and doing everything to keep it really the risk to me as the one person. But it's been pretty quiet. But then I read people who live in central Manchester, and I might come to Martin next, who are going, oh my God, it's like it's street parties today and things. So, Martin, what's your week been like, mate?
Started off all right, and then had some really bad news in the middle of the week, with family members being ill and very ill, I'm going to be honest. So I had a couple of days where I just wasn't with it. And then today I've been fine again. Today felt more like myself again. But yeah, I'm starting it's really weird over there at the minute. Because it's like
who's tapping? Who's tapping?
It's like I feel like lockdown's already been lifted with the way what I'm seeing at the minute.
Yeah.
Everyone is mulling around like we're just back to normal. Now, what I don't think's helping is we're all waiting for this big announcement Sunday, which I might add was meant to be yesterday or today. Funny how it wasn't because of the bank holiday coming up. But it's because we've seen France, we've seen Germany, we've seen Italy, we've seen Spain. Everyone's now mulling around You know, I've had an email. Looks like apparently I may even be going on holiday now in July, because apparently the Spanish hotels are now revolting because they're saying if we can't open to the tourists, we're not opening at all. We're going to be out of business. And I'm starting to now, my opinion anyway, I think money's starting to make decisions now on everything, not just football, on everything. And I think if what I think might happen on Sunday night happens, I think it will be at the detriment to people again. And I think we will end up back in lockdown, and I think it'll be a full lockdown.
Yeah,
I think we're now learning from the mistakes.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have said that it's going to be a very limited, restrictions lifted and things. It's going to be very, very limited. But I guess we don't know until, what they say on Sunday. So, Chris, how are you, mate?
I'm all right, thanks, mate.
How are you into your second week now of your holiday? No Hawaii shirt on this week. You got your black shirt on, so obviously first week was great. Second week,
yeah. Well, this week started off slowly, and then the wife said, "Are you going to cut the grass?" I was like, "Yeah, all right." So I went out and I cut the grass, and then I suddenly like, "Oh, that looks better," and got into the whole gardening thing for the last 3 days. So yeah, I spent most of the time in the garden, and it looks a lot better. I hate gardening usually, but I said to her, "You said once I got going and saw the difference that it made, I was like, yeah, I can keep up with this." And we had a little VE party, WhatsApp party on the patio this evening with the rest of Judy's family. So yeah, that was quite nice. And apart from that, just playing with the kids. Yeah, doing what I've been doing since lockdown started, really.
Wonderful.
Staying in, mate. I mean, my missus went out earlier today to drop some stuff over at her mother's, which is about a 10-minute drive. And she said that the traffic was like a normal day, It seems that people, I've started to think, well, I'm going to go out, and like Martin says, I think we might see the detriment of that.
That's sweet. Yeah. Tom?
How are you doing, guys? Yeah, it's great to be back on. Obviously, last week I was involved in a quiz night, so that was interesting. But yeah, I'm back on this week. It's been a weird week this week. Just sort of the same sort of thing, getting used to it again. Went out, like Chris said, like some of his family went out. I went out yesterday with my dad for 3 weeks, first time in 3 weeks, and just like a normal day, which was slightly disappointing because it makes you feel like, what's the point in doing what you're doing if everybody else is not doing it? Yeah, so just sort of been sticking to the guidelines, keeping healthy as I always am, and also got the good news this week that I've got a sixth form place no matter what grades I get in the summer, so it's perfect. It's been an all right week for me. Thanks, guys.
Is that a tribute to Ryan?
I think so, yeah. When he's not on.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next question, and as you might realise, one of our guests has dropped out, and that's Martin. Had some problems with his Wi-Fi, but we're going to move on. He might join the conversation in the very near future. But the big question tonight that we're going to talk about on the Friday Night Social is last night news broke, and that was about Kyle Walker. Now, it's been all over the media today. Last night it broke, and I'm going to read out what was said. And the news actually broke on the scum sun, whatever you want to call it. And I'm sorry that I have to even bother reading from it, but that was the news outlet that actually broke the news that everybody else was quoting, and even the language that is used is for me just shows you what this paper is all about. And it talks about serial lockdown clown Kyle Walker struck a hat-trick of COVID-19 breaches in 24 hours, and as we know, he visited his sister for a party, then his parents before cycling near his second apartment in Cheshire with somebody else. And they've got a full sort of, Google Earth map talking about the fact that from Wednesday he'd waved, he's travelled up from I'm not sure where it is, but it's in Cheshire. I don't really want to say where it is, but basically went up to see his sister because it was her birthday. Then went to see his parents. Then came back, and the next morning he basically was cycling. I'm feeling pretty scummy even reading, having this article open, if I'm being honest. So I'm not going to actually directly read from it. But they broke the story that basically, after everything that had happened previously, which we know with alleged strippers and things like that, and he apologised and made comments on social media about people should really stay in. Well, it's come to light now that he actually went to his parents' house. He went to his sister's because it was a birthday. He hugged her. He openly admitted he hugged her, and then went cycling with his mate. Now, he came out on Twitter last night, and this was Kyle Walker's official statement, and it says, "I feel as though I have stayed silent for long enough. In light of the most recent article published about me and my family, I feel as though I have no choice but to address things publicly. I have recently gone through one of the toughest periods of my life, which I take full responsibility for. However, I now feel as though I am being harassed. This is no longer solely affecting me, but affecting the health of my family and my young children too. In relation to the events on Wednesday, I travelled to Sheffield to give my sister a birthday card and a present, but also to speak to one of the few people I believe I can trust in my life. She hugged me to remind me how much she cares and that I am loved. What am I meant to do? Push her away? I then travelled to my parents' house to pick up some home-cooked meals. Again, it's been an extremely tough couple of months for them. Everything I've gone through in my life, they have gone through with me. What have my parents and sister done to deserve their privacy being invaded by photographers following me to their homes? I constantly feel as though I am being followed. I don't even feel safe in the confines of my own home. Why should they have to feel like that too? Who deserves that? I am in a privileged position as a role model and a professional athlete, and can assure you from my upbringing, I do not take it for granted. But at what stage do my feelings get taken into consideration? My family has been torn apart. This has been dragged through the press. And I ask, when is enough enough? At a time when the focus is understandably on COVID-19, at what point does mental health get taken into consideration? An illness which affects every sufferer differently. I am a human being with feelings of pain and upset just like everybody else. Being in the public eye as a professional athlete does not make you immune to this. It is sad, but I feel as though my life is being scrutinised without any context. I understand if people are upset or angry with me, but it was important for people to have a better understanding of my life. Thank you for taking the time to hear my feelings. Kyle Walker, May the 8th, 2020. So that was the events that led up from Wednesday night through to last night when the Sun scum broke that. I mean, just the language used in it was horrendous. Anyway, I mean, I'm not saying what he's done is right or wrong. I'm just saying the language used in the article by the scum was absolutely abhorrent. But then he came out with that comment. And tonight on Twitter, I did ask people on Twitter who follow me if they had any thoughts on the whole incident that we were going to talk about tonight. And maybe I'll come back to that after I've listened to a few of your comments. So, Chris, I'm going to come to you first on this one. So what are your overall thoughts? And what I'd like you to do is, and all three of you, and if Martin jumps in as well, is not just give me one side of it. Give me your thoughts and your reasonings behind your answer as to your overall thoughts on where you stand right now, because I'll be honest with you, I am in real limbo with it. And I've discussed this with my wife and everything, and we've had a long discussion for over an hour about this, and we've changed our tune several times on it, and some of the comments have changed several times. But where do you stand, Chris?
I think I'm pretty incapable of making a defence for him, if I'm honest with you. You know, one of the things they say is don't make unnecessary journeys. And as much as we all want to see our families, you know, I haven't seen my parents or any of my close family since this lockdown started. And I know the reasons why I can't go and see them. So I'm not going to make any defence for Kyle Walker, because I think if you feel like you're being targeted, then you do the best thing you can. You don't feed the monster. And that's exactly what he's done by making, you know, 3 transgressions against it. We all know what papers like The Sun revel in. You know, they're obsessed with celebrity and the good and the bad side of life, trying to make people out to be evil or along those along those lines. I don't think Kyle's done himself any favours. I agree that, and I believe that he's been targeted. I absolutely agree with that statement. But he's setting himself up to fail by his actions. And I'm pretty certain he's not the only one who's gone off and made journeys that weren't necessary. Why he's been targeted, I would have thought the first transgression. We like to paint this picture of how everyone should behave themselves, and that first transgression was a little bit what's the word I'm looking for here, you know, it was a bit seedy. So yeah, but really, you know, for me, this is my personal thing with it all, is the papers and the media. I don't take much notice of, if I'm honest with you, any kind of media. I don't, you know, because I think it's a mechanism for something far more sinister than what Kyle Walker's done. I think as well for Kyle, he's in an unfortunate position where he's, you know, rich footballers, they get a lot of, you know, negative press because of who they are. And it probably doesn't help that he plays for, you know, the media's favourite punchbag club. You know, and I think the media also are hiding the other stories that are far more pertinent behind things like this, and Neil Ferguson's transgression, which, you know, isn't great what he did. You know, he's not the Scottish medical officer did something similar, an MP. You know, we should all be abiding by the guidelines, but obviously some people are finding that very difficult to do. Like I say, I'm not going to defend Kyle. I think if he feels he's being targeted, then you keep your nut down and try and you know, come across as the good guy and all this. And there's plenty of ways that you can do that. You know, generally, I just think he's a buffoon.
Okay, I'm going to come to Tom.
Well, for me, when I saw it last night, I was disappointed in him. I was very disappointed because he's had a great season for us. Yeah. He's always been that sort of guy who's always looked out for everybody. He's never been a trouble causer. And to see somebody like that do something again for the second time, because people forget that he's already done it once, it was disappointing. But on the other hand, some City fans will go, oh, well, he's not done anything wrong, he's only going to see his family. But what would it be if Van Dijk did that? If we were looking at it in a different point of view, we'd be criticising Van Dijk or whoever done it, for example, from a rival club, and we'd be saying it's wrong. So obviously you stick up for your own players, but everybody's had to forfeit things. Like, I can't see my granddad, he's got Alzheimer's. I'm no different to Kyle Walker in not seeing my family, whether he's got millions of pounds and I don't. You know, everybody's in the same boat. It's a national pandemic. It's a world pandemic. Everybody's struggling. And it's disappointing to see that somebody such high calibre as Kyle Walker is letting everybody down, who's perceived as a role model in many different ways. He's letting the country down with what he's doing. Okay,
Carl?
Andy, I thought about this. I was going to bed last night and, you know, checked my phone, which I shouldn't be doing before going to bed. And I saw Kyle's post. And I stepped over it. I woke up this morning and thinking about it again. I have a different perspective. I think this guy's troubled. I think there's some serious mental issues going on with this dude. It doesn't make any sense, Andy, Chris, Tom. It doesn't make any sense for a player who knows that the media will be after you. He knows. Does it once, brings ladies to the home and has a party, right? During a lockdown, breaks it, apologizes, and then he goes out and does this again 3 times. Something is wrong. There's something really wrong with this dude mentally. Mental health issues don't come up as for everybody the same way. Some people are depressed and they go into seclusion. Some people just break the lines and do things they would ordinarily not do. I think he's struggling. And it'd be great to have, while what he did was wrong, I should call it out, somebody needs to help this guy out, because I think he's really struggling and he has no way to reach out and express that in a way, or manage that in a way that's valuable and positive. I think he's self-destructing. I worry for him.
It is a difficult one. I mean, I know you messaged me, direct messaged me about the article last night, early hours this morning, whenever it was, and I just said my initial thoughts was, he's an idiot. Fancy doing it again. I've read lots of things, and then actually after I posted that to you as a direct message, I then read his actual tweet in full, because prior to my initial reaction was, what an idiot. And I read it again, and I agree with you to a certain extent. Of it does sound, it's almost like a cry for help. It's a something isn't right, isn't quite right. But I had this discussion with my wife this afternoon, and we spoke about it at length. And my wife is pretty sort of laid back and casual about most things and things like that. And she was quite angry about it. And I sort of said to her, well, I've gone from what an absolute bellend to, people with mental health issues don't always know what they're doing and things like that. But he's actually come out and claimed in his statement almost that he has got something, something going on there. Yeah. Yeah. My point to my wife on what Chris and Thomas said is, my point to my wife was, well, you know what? I mean, most big clubs in the Premier League have psychotherapists, they have psychologists as part of the club. And players will probably go to them, I don't know, 10, 20 times during the season, even if it's just for motivation or getting your mind in the right place. So they know that help is there. Why has he never picked up the phone? And we don't know. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I don't know that. But my suggestion on the mental health issue side was, well, they are in a privilege. And I'm not talking about money, but money does come into it to a certain degree, because they are in a privileged position that, they can pick up a phone and within an hour they could have a seriously top professional psychotherapist, psychologist, sports psychologist, whatever, on the phone, talking to them, Skyping them, FaceTiming them, doing whatever it is. If I was struggling and having a bad day in lockdown and whatever else, and let's face it, every other bugger on the planet has bad days and good days and whatever else, I can't pick up a phone and know within an hour I'll have professional help talking to me, FaceTiming me, Skyping me, going, all right, Andy, don't worry, let's talk through this, tell me what's going on. I can't do that. Now, he has the privilege of being in a position that he could do that whenever he wants, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, whenever he's feeling at his lowest, weakest, whatever. I'm sure those people are there 24 hours a day for them, free of charge, because the club pays it, not him. And he can afford it 50 million times over an hour's consultation. I would never be able at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm feeling low and thinking I want to go and do something stupid because my mind's I'm not even thinking right. I would never get an appointment with a psychotherapist, a psychologist. I wouldn't be able to do that. I just wouldn't. One, I probably couldn't afford it. And two, at this moment in time, I've got no access to it. So, I looked at it from what from what Chris and Tom said, and I thought it from that side of it. But then again, people on social media were saying, the things like you said. It's that, when you're in such a bad place, sometimes you don't know what you're doing, and you don't make sensible decisions, and you don't do this. But my flip side on that one is going back to Chris. I mean, Chris knows, having a vulnerable child, the absolute parameters are there to save lives, and the reason behind it is X, Y, and Z. We don't expose ourselves to this, and what he's done is exposed his sister and exposed his mother and father, and he's gone cycling the next day with a mate. We don't know whether there's any social distancing, but that mate could have quite easily been at a party just undiscovered the night before and caught something that he passes to Kyle, and just this whole. And that's the whole thing behind it. I don't know. I find it draining that we've got professional people. And I said to Mo, like my wife said, she said, he's in a home, regardless how big it is, makes no difference. She said, you're here, and the flip side is you're here, surrounded by your sons, me, your father-in-law, all day, every day. You've got some family support, whether they drive you bonkers or not. There is family support. If he's in a big, massive house I nearly said where he lives, but in Cheshire, and he's on his own in his 20s, and he's got nobody, you can have FaceTime and you can have things like that. It's a bit different to having physical people around you. Then I can imagine it could be potentially hard when you've been used to the freedoms that you are given as a footballer. But I'm going to come back to you again, because I know I can see Chris's eyes working here. His mind is going, and that's fine. But like I said, I did put it out on Twitter, and I did ask people what they thought about it, and there were several comments. One was, let me just go back to try and find where they all were. Let's see. There were one turned around and actually said, and this was one of our guys who comes on the channel, and that was Ryan. Ryan came up with one, and he said, I'm glad you're doing this, as I was planning on ranting a little on a vlog today if you did one, which we didn't. What Walker has done is wrong, and he can't give any excuse. He's already done this once and got ridiculed for it, and rightly so. He hasn't apologised, which is more than one person has said this. He hasn't apologised at all. His statement is just him complaining and coming up with excuses. If it is to do with his mental health, I feel sorry for him, but it is no excuse. Everyone is in the same boat right now. Anyone leaving the house doing what he's doing would be looked down on, and he'd be called an idiot. He's in the public eye, which increases that for himself. I don't buy into this apology at all, and I'm very disappointed. I haven't seen my gran or uncle in over 2 months now, if not 3. Everyone's in that situation, but they have to respect the rules. This has changed my opinion on Kyle, and I'd now welcome the idea of letting him leave the club, especially if we had a replacement like Semedo coming in. So he said, that's my little rant done, and I hope it's not too long for you. So what are your thoughts on, we'll talk about what Ryan's just had to say there, Chris.
Are you sure Ryan wrote that? That's very eloquent.
Yeah, well, that's what he wrote.
I think looking at it from where Ryan seems to be coming from, I think he's right. I think there is that, you feel let down, because he's not just letting down, himself. He's letting down the club, isn't he? And then us after that and everything else. I don't know. I do understand the mental health thing. I've done a lot of work with people who suffer with mental health, and everyone does react differently with it. And to go back to what you were saying, Andy, about having somebody to talk to. So when this first transgression happened, I'm sure there were some frank words between both parties, and I would imagine if he had said at that time, look, I'm really suffering with my mental health, they would have said, look, the support is here for you.
Yeah.
You know, please take it. You know, I don't know whether I'm not going to say Carl's lying. I don't think he is. I think that there is some sort of issue there. Whether it is he's got mental health issues or he is an idiot. You know, maybe the truth is it lies somewhere in between.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, but I thought I'd read somewhere recently that his missus had just had a kid a few days ago. So I can't see him being at home by himself and not having a lot to do with a newborn around.
Well, apparently, I think they're separated, and he lives on his own. I think they're separated.
Okay.
But one of my I don't know that for certain, so I'm only surmising because the articles and everything of House have read that saying that he lives on his own. So I'm only assuming that they are separated because obviously, I mean, this isn't the first story to come out about Kyle Walker. Yeah. Forget the COVID stuff. There was stuff before and things like that. Yeah. But if I don't know I don't know. I'm only assuming. But it was something like me and my wife said, and it's like, would he risk going and seeing his child now after interacting with all of these people? And I mean, what the thought of going to see your child, and things like that. I mean, would you put your child at risk after you've just been interacting with a load of people that you don't know who they've been interacting with, and that type of thing, which adds more jeopardy to the whole bloody debate,
Yeah. Go on, Carl.
Go on, Carl, mate.
Yeah, I mean, you make a fair point, and I think the jeopardy is beyond what happened in the first transgression.
Yeah.
I think there's stuff that's been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
And we're just now seeing the output from that in this crazy behavior that he's having. Because it's not normal for a person who makes that much money, who's at a club that's an elite club, a first 11 team member in that position, recognizing the challenges that his managers had with his own family with the same disease.
I mean, that raises a whole other dynamic.
This is not the behavior of a rational person who has all these thinking faculties in play. There's something fundamentally wrong with this guy, and he needs to address it at some point, or else it's going to happen again. Yeah. It's going to happen again. Something's going to happen again if we go on for another couple of weeks, right? With a newborn who's born, something's going to happen again. It's not normal. While I know the son likes this kind of stories, but there's something fundamentally wrong with the makeup of his mind at this point in time to make it to keep behaving this way.
I mean Kiam, one of the presenters who does the FIFA, he said, seriously, my question, should the club be doing more to punish players breaking social distancing rules, such as fines? Somebody else called Albert Blues said the police should be punishing, fining Walker along with all the miscreants. Somebody called Blue Monkey said, I think he is feeling the same as everyone else, but obviously with more money and less self-restraint. And I said, well, I think that's a fairly obvious deduction. He's got more money than most, and has definitely demonstrated he's got less restraint. But he said still he wouldn't have got caught if he did nothing wrong. And at the end of the day, the fundamentals of that are, if he did nothing wrong, he wouldn't be caught out with something on that. Somebody called Lily Hayes, which is Lily Hayes Wolf. She said, is Kyle Walker the new Sterling for the hate media? Why do current Liverpool players not get the same treatment? And I said, would you like me to put that to the guests? Somebody else said, it's one I would like to ask. You're not telling me that if they had been following another footballer, they might not have found a similar indiscretion? Would they do? Somebody else, Damien Gillan, said, Gillo MCFC said, would they do the same to Henderson? Doubt it very much. Matt _Biker, said, why is there another media agenda against one of our players? Seems to be a witch hunt following him around. A lot are breaking the lockdown rules and should be fined. He made a big error, a bit like the government advisor who resigned, and he made the rules. We've got Mantom69MCFC said, what are the reporters doing not isolating? Exactly. There's no different to Walker. Talk about calling the kettle. Then finally, David, MCFC_blue said, if he's been honouring the lockdown since his first indiscretion, which it would appear he has, no one deserves criticism for visiting their close family. Where's the added risk between that and visiting the shops? It's the fact he's been targeted that really rankles with me. So, I mean, they're just a few of the ones I could read out. I couldn't read all of them out, but so you've got people sort of, Des brought up some of their ideas on this. You've got the fact that what are news reporters doing, because he did say he feels like he's constantly being followed since that initial indiscretion. What are the news reporters doing out, following him all the way to Rotherham and Sheffield and everything else? Because unless they are based covertly in Sheffield and Rotherham, what are they doing following him from his Cheshire home all the way to there and then photographing him? Because that's not surely doesn't seem like a key worker to me, even though some journalists might argue that it's freedom of rights and I should be allowed to report on blah 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 bullshit. And then you've also got the other parts of what people said there about the fact that how many other players are potentially doing this, but actually aren't being followed by the scum journalists or media photographers. I don't know, Chris.
Well, journalists, have got a great reputation, haven't they? Them and solicitors, they're wonderful trades to be in. Listen, I don't know. I agree. It's the honest truth of the matter is, everybody should be staying at home and not making unnecessary journeys, right? That is the base of it all. Because papers like the Sun have never operated in a morally good way. Am I surprised? Am I? Hell, they are a joke. Why they aren't asking Boris Johnson how he's allowed the country to suffer the worst death toll in Europe and concentrating on Kyle Walker and things like that, then that's a question I'd like to answer. If I could have an answer from journalists, why they think it's all right to scapegoat 1, 2, 3 people when the bigger story is, as a nation, we have been let down awfully by our government, and that's my personal thing on them. But yeah, journalists should be obeying the lockdown rules as everyone else should be doing. It doesn't justify what Kyle's done, but it is pot calling the kettle, really, isn't it? But they're not the one. They want to sell papers, they want clickbait, all that kind of crap. It's the problem with the modern world.
It is, and you're talking here. You're talking here. I'm going to bring up this guy's. I'll tell you what. I'll come up. Well, I'll give you a few more tweets. Okay, these were people that I, asked to comment. This was Piers Morgan. When you talk about journalism, you talk about the not so clean people in journalism and things that they have done. And I'll if you don't know Piers Morgan then and what he's done in the past, and think, well, I'm not going to go into that for legal reasons, but he tweeted this morning, Kyle Walker citing mental health issues as an excuse for why he repeatedly breaches lockdown rules is one of the most pathetic things I've ever heard. It's other people's physical health that I'm worried about, thanks to his selfish, reckless behaviour. To which somebody replied, "You sick fuck, Morgan. The man is obviously not coping well." To which that then started the whole, Kyle Walker is actually the worst type of human being, and blah blah blah. And that just goes to show you, this is somebody who we know has not had a whiter than white past in the media.
To be fair to to be fair to Piers Morgan, he is one of the journalists who is calling out the government on their record. To be fair to him,
no.
But it is very black and white in how he sees things, isn't it?
Yes, But my point was reading those. I didn't put people's names to them. Was the fact of you can see by just making that one statement.
Yeah.
The replies suddenly, and I could have read you some really coarse language that was about Kyle Walker after that tweet.
Yeah, and that's Twitter. That is Twitter. It's a horrible nest of vipers, and it's horrible place.
And if he reads that as well, like Carl was saying earlier, his mental health. If he reads all that, he's alone in his house. He's got nobody to speak to. He sees all that. Then what? Well, if he keeps seeing that, he's already seen it once for when he did his other breach of lockdown in the beginning. If he sees a second round of it now, it could have a really big impact on him.
I'm sure the comments
spot on, Tom. Absolutely spot on. I mean, and this is the thing: is that when your mind, if his mind is not where it needs to be, and he's craving people to support him, and then he reads shit like that, from absolute nobodies, no marks. We were commenting all sorts of shit on Twitter. Let's face it, Twitter is, and we use Twitter. We know we do, but it's full of shit most of the time.
It is.
There are some lovely, lovely people out there, and I love following the nice people and things like that, and they make me laugh and whatever else, and lovely people. But some people on there are just nasty bastards. They really are. Just got nothing nice to say about anything on the planet, and it's just. And you read that, and you do worry, Tom. Tom, that's a good point. You do worry that if he reads this type of shit, then if his mind isn't really, and he's truthful to him, if everything he said is truthful, I'm hoping that somebody somewhere from the club has taken a grip of this and said, right, we're going to sort this once and for all. We're going to get contact. We're going to do. If he hasn't already, I mean, we don't know. He may already have had contact with the club. It's just not enough. I don't know. Chris, you were jumping in there. Sorry, mate. I do apologise. I jumped over you.
It's fine. I was just, what Tom was saying about, I'm sure under his statement that he made on Twitter, all those sort of comments would have made underneath his. And, it is such a sad world that we live in where we have to, castigate people and just be using behind a keyboard warrior sort of way of saw it on the vlog this week, didn't we, where somebody came on saying Pep's mum's dead, ha ha ha, all this sort of thing. And you just think to yourself, what's the drive, what drives you to do things like that? It's just absolutely sick.
So I mean, Andy, one thing I've realized, and I realized this very quickly, is that there are a lot of people in this world who are not well. I mean, really, there are people who are really not well. And Twitter and Facebook and social media has shown us the workings of their mind by what they post. I mean, the whole Pep's mom situation, there's no one on earth who has a rational mind can think that way, right? It's just, right? But to Kyle Walker and to Tom's point, I think this is where the club needs to get involved. The captain, maybe it's Silva, maybe it's De Bruyne, needs to get a hold of this and say, "Look, dude, you need to pull things up and stop this bullshit. This is not helping you. It's not helping your family. It's not helping the club. So you need to." I mean, Vincent Company would probably done that, right?
Yeah.
He would probably got on the phone and dealt with that.
That's a really, really good point, because can you imagine after the stripper thing and stripper gate and everything, can you imagine Vinny on the phone to Kyle Walker? I mean, I'm not discounting the fact that mental health issues are mental health issues, and it wouldn't might not have made any difference, but you can imagine Vinny handling that situation as the club captain, speaking to him. Even if he went round and stood at his front door, 2 meters away, going, "You need help, get your shit together. I'm here for you, blah, 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 blah. You've got my number. You make sure you ring me every couple of hours. We'll have a chat. We'll get this sorted out." Have we got that now at the club? I don't know. I don't know. We're only surmising. We don't know. Kevin De Bruyne could have been on his doorstep saying exactly the same things for all we know.
Yeah.
Well, they say that they have I know you see on Soccer AM and stuff, and Carl Walker was on the Soccer AM thing a few weeks back, and he said that they've got a WhatsApp group where all the players stay. Yeah. They're all in there. If I was a teammate of Carl Walker at this point, I'd be on the WhatsApp group now, or private calling him saying, listen, if you want to chat, just, you know where the phone is. You know, I think it's all about support for him now. It looked like he was lost, and like we've said, in a world that he's not experienced before, he's calling out for help. So it'd have been nice to see some nice comments below all of what he said yesterday, and some of his teammates.
I mean, Tom, there were honestly, 90% of what I read this morning when I woke up to this sort of Twitter thing from City fans.
Yeah.
90% of it was in support of Karl Walker.
Oh, yeah. I left the comment on this.
There were loads and loads of City fans. I was quite staggered with how much support was on there, because I originally woke up and read it thinking, you dickhead. You know, and then I spoke to Karl. We direct messaged each other, and I said, he's a fucking idiot. You know, he's done this, he's done. I've read more into it. Has it changed my mind? I'm like that with it, because, you know, I look at people who, you know, I'd love nothing more than to go and see my mum, who is seriously ill at the moment. You know, she's got fractured ribs from falling on top of everything else that has happened, and I would love nothing more than to be able to go and see my mum, just to make sure that she doesn't overdose on morphine or something like that. But I can't, and the temptation is massive, absolutely massive. But you know, I don't know. I find it very, very. I find it very, very hard. I really do. But maybe my head is in a slightly better place than Karl Walker's head's in. I don't know. I really don't know.
Andy, how do you think? So let's project forward, you know, a couple of months, and you know, the season starts again, Champions League starts again, for all intents and purposes, and we'll get to the Premier League discussion. How does he return back on the field and play the game? How?
I don't know.
It makes you.
I really, and my point is with these things is I don't know how he does, and if he's one of 1,000 Premier League players on the books and all of the clubs, how many more are suffering like this, and how many more have done something like this but have never been caught? They've never been caught. How do we know? And I'm not saying this. Please don't get me, Liverpool fans. Please. This is not. I'm just making it as an example. How do we know Jordan Henderson or Virgil van Dijk hasn't gone and visited somebody illegally, but just have never been followed by the paparazzi? We don't know that. Hello, Martin. We actually don't know that, do we? So. You know, and I'm not saying they have. I am under no circumstances saying, well, we just don't know that. So I have no idea, Karl. Absolutely no idea how he actually returns.
Well, he might ask to play behind closed doors for about 3 seasons, mightn't he? He'd be all right then.
Hey, it might go that way anyway. Yeah, the way it's going. But anyway, listen. Marty's joined us right as we're about to go. Listen, that was the end of part 1, and that was just purely talking about the whole Kyle Walker debate. And I mean, whatever you do, we've all got our own opinions on these things, and some will fall on the side of solely support of Kyle Walker. Others will fall on the side of thinking, well, hold on a minute, you know, I don't have that privilege, and if I did it and it was me, I'd be arrested, and I would get £1,000 fine that I couldn't afford to do it, but my family are poorly, and I have to desperately see them. He went for a birthday celebration of his sister and things. So, you know, we're not here to judge. We are certainly not judge and jury. We don't know what really is going on in Kyle Walker's life, but it's interesting to hear what City fans think about it, and it's a difficult one. I just wish him the best. And if he has got mental health issues, I hope that he is reaching out for the support that is definitely out there for him at the club. But I really don't hope I read another Kyle Walker, transgression. That'd just be, it'd be terrible. But then again, the media, you need to really sort your fucking shit out, because we know what happened with Caroline Flack in the UK and everything else, and some of you are absolute scum of the earth, and you want to. I don't know. I'm not even going to go down the journalistic route, because some of them are not all. Some of them are absolute scum, and that's it. So anyway, we'll be back. Don't forget to tune into part 2. We'll see you soon.